Okay, so this is a battery I bought about a year ago. I actually have two of them that I bought at the same time, and then a couple more a couple months later. I'm not sure if we can really see that serial number up there, but we'll definitely try to get it in the film. I've had this one marked as battery A for a long time, and I just got done charging it, and with the green light on with the eco-worthy 20 amp charger, we're at full charge right now. So what we'll do, go ahead and just do a voltage test here. Now the charger's on, we'll pop it off and do a resting voltage also, but you can see here 14.6 volts with the charger. Actually, the charger's off, I believe. Let's take a look-see here. It's off now. Take a look at her. Yeah, instantly dropped to 3.6. So it's a good resting voltage though. Let's go ahead and unhook it, and we got a battery tester over here. We'll go ahead and get the test going and kind of see how she does. Okay, so I've let the battery rest all night after the initial charge of 14.6 volts or whatever it was, and then we all saw that it dropped down to 13.6. I disconnected the charger, and it's just been resting all night. So we're going to start with a nice resting voltage in a resting charge. I've got my digital multimeter here. We'll go ahead and take a look at the actual voltage, and then we'll hook it up to the battery tester, which is an East tester ET5410A+. I just recently picked that up as a more efficient way to test batteries as opposed to the small one I used to have. And let's go ahead and test that voltage now. So reading on the multimeter, 0 volts right now. Let's go ahead and attach this and that. We're coming in, it's got a resting voltage of 13.9 volts. I hope you guys can see that on here. We'll get a little bit closer if we can. The light's going to mess with this, but assured it is 13.9 volts, so 13.91 now. So that's actually pretty good. We'll double check that with the tester here, so we'll go ahead and hook that up now. And we've got, oh, that's kind of flopping around a little bit. Now I use some pretty heavy gauge wire here because that's what I had available, but you know, in all reality, this does produce, you know, 40 amps of resistance. Negative, negative, okay. So we want something that's going to gauge for 40 amps and or create a 40 amp load. I guess that's resistance, right? So positive and positive. We're going to go or negative, negative, and then a positive, positive. I did go out and I didn't go out and buy new wire. I happen to have this wire laying around, so I utilized it. Oh, come on now. There we go. Okay. Nice and firm. Okay, so kind of off and running on that aspect, and let's go ahead and turn on the battery tester. And let's go ahead and just set, let's go to on. Now it's already starting to draw a voltage, or not a voltage, but a load. It's already starting to draw a load at 2 amps. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and enter here. We'll arrow over to the 2. And let's start inching this up a bit. And that fan kicked in there. Watching the wattage. We've got a max of 400 watts, so we don't want to exceed that. 25 amps. That'll put us at about the 8-hour mark. Okay, 30 amps. So what we'll do, where's my trusty calculator at? Run it at 30 amps, just about 400 watts. Trusty calculator, we've got a 200 amp hour battery, so let's go 200 divided by 30, and that's going to equal about 6.67 hours, so, you know, about that long. 6.67, about 6 hours and 40 minutes, so we'll set our timer for 6 hours and 15 minutes and kind of see where we're at. Actually, let's just set it for 6 hours. So let's set our timer for 6 hours. Clock. Timer. And let's give her the start. Okay, we'll see where she ends up at. Keep that timer running in the background. So just a reminder that this battery is right around a year old. I'll have to look up the exact date and I'll put that in the summary or the intro. Okay, so we're about an hour and I don't know, 43 minutes into it, 42 minutes into it, and looks like we're pulling in about 12.77 volts now. So we're definitely, you know, decreasing in power, but seems to be holding out pretty well. Remember, we got a 6-hour span, and what we're shooting for is 10.1 volts as the cutoff, and then we'll do a calculation of the amp hours utilized during that 6 hours, 6.5 hours, whatever it was. There's another way to go about this on this machine, but I just bought this machine, and this is the most straightforward for me, so I'll check in with you guys in a while. Okay, so right now we're just about halfway into 6 hours, and we're pulling in about 12.7 volts, still pulling the continuous 29.95 or 30 amps at anywhere from 380 380 watts right now. It seemed to be upper close to 400 before, but we're kind of waxing and waning a bit. Looking good. Okay, we've got about it's over an hour, but we've got 5 hours into it on the money right now, and we're pulling about 12.36 volts and running at 30 amp hours. We're at a 30 amp draw for the last 5 hours. We're at 12.36 volts, which if you look at like our basic chart here, we're going to tell you we're getting probably closer to 10% now, which is, you know, to be expected actually. We're going to do all the calculations here soon. We're going to let it run for another hour at this time, and then we're going to slow down the amperage maybe, or just take a look at it and see where we're at. The reason why we want to slow down the amperage is because if I was to let up on the amperage now, we'd see a little jump in our voltage. It's just the voltage drops when we have a heavier load, so we'll just kind of wait and see. We'll check back in 1 hour. Okay, so sometime in between like 45 minutes and now, before the 6 hour mark, it did actually jump down to 10.1, and that's disappointing. I don't think we're at quite 180 amp hours right now, and these are 200 amp hour batteries. So let's check out a couple things here. Let's go ahead and okay, so I gave the battery a jump start.
Had to get the charger on it, jump start it with the other 200 amp hour eco-worthy battery. She got going. Now she's kind of sitting here again. I've turned down the amperage to 10. I think I'm actually going to turn it down to 5. See if we get any more out of it. Now, this is the thing, is that I've tested some other eco-worthy batteries. Whoops. And they only go down to about 11 volts. So, and then the BMS kicks in. So that's a BMS thing, potentially not the amperage thing or the battery cell thing, but we're going to check this out here. So let's go ahead and crank it up and see how long. Oh, let's get the timer going. We're actually going to put it on a stopwatch this time. You can see that. We're going to go ahead and just hit go, and we're going to turn this on. So pulling about 5 amps, 10.91 volts, and she's creeping down. So I bet you if we just go on up with the amperage a little bit. So let's go 10 amps. Okay, we're coming in to 10.1 here, which is bottom of the battery, so to speak, and we're not getting a whole bunch out of it. I mean, like, we didn't even get 10 amp hours out, so we're definitely in the 180 amp hour range, maybe a little bit less. I'd almost gather, say, 12% loss over a year with this battery. There's your 10.1 right there. Let's turn that off. Little bounce back to 10.24 volts, but we're going to call that good. Not even 10 minutes into it. That's just, you know, oh gosh, that was 10 amps. Got about another amp hour out of it. 1 amp hour. So, well, we'll take a look at this battery now. Okay, so this is battery B. There's a serial number right there. Okay, now it's kind of like a onward and upward to battery B, as you can see by the trusty blue tape with writing on it. And we'll try to get a good picture of the serial number there. Alright, whoops. There is the serial number, and let's kind of see how many volts we got going on here. Let's go on. Whoops. On. $13.7, so point something off, but not too shabby. And let's take enter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to go up to 30. Now we're at 13.65, so we're about the same resting voltage. 30 amps. Okay, we're going to go enter. And we're just going to hit like, on. Okay, and away we go. Let's go ahead and let's get the timer going. We're going to set the timer this time for I say 5:30, 5 hours and 30 minutes. That's what we're going to start it for. Let's go ahead and give her the go. Okay, we'll come check it in 5 hours and 30 minutes and just kind of see what the lowdown is. We're pumping 394 watts, 29.98 amps, and now we've dropped down with a load on it, 13.14 volts. Okay, final 2 seconds at 5 hours. Whoops, sorry. So we're into the final seconds here, just past it of 5 hours and 30 minutes. And basically we're at about 12.23 volts, still pulling 30 amps. I figure we're somewhere around, somewhere around 10% or so. Kind of loud. Okay, Google, stop. Let's set it for another 30 minutes. Keep a close eye on it, okay? Alright, keep a close eye on it and be right back. Okay, so we're at about 11.45 volts, still pulling 30 amps, about 342 watts. And we've already ran for 5 hours and 30 minutes. We just passed the 15-minute mark, so we're about 5 hours and 45 minutes. So we're coming up on 6 minutes, or 6 hours, which would be 180 amp hours for this battery. So this one, so far, seems to be a little bit better than battery A. This is battery B. Little inconsistencies there, but yeah, what do? We'll just go ahead and watch it for a minute. Sometimes the eco-worthy BMSs, when there's a load on, they'll kick out at just over 11 volts as opposed to going down to 10.1, which is fine, because most things like inverters and stuff, they won't work at that low of a voltage anyways. It just, you know, you can still run some things, but most of it's just garbage at that point. They're not, the power at that range below 10% just doesn't really work for anything else besides running things like incidental LED lighting and stuff like that. Okay, so we're at about almost 5 hours and 50 minutes into it. We're just over 11 volts, 11.08, and like I said before, oftentimes this is when the batteries, these eco-worthy BMSs, that's when they'll kick out, on or off, whatever you want to call it, when there's a load on it. So we'll just watch it carefully and see where it goes out at, because I have a feeling it's going to go out soon. Ooh, man. You can see we're coming into 10.5. 7 minutes, 39 seconds left. It's going to be, oh, I'm just about willing to call it 180 amp hours for this one. She has 10.1. I'm going to turn it off, and that'll be that. Oops. Okay, so we almost made it to 180 amp hours. That was close, almost 180 amp hours, and she cut out. dropped off really quick at the end. Okay, so the red is indicating battery A. Oh, by the way, I've made a little chart here. The blue is indicating battery B. Now, I went quite a while without testing it, but time-wise, it kind of like lines out at within 15 minutes of each other, 30 minutes of each other, where they both kind of drop off at the end there. You can see pulling 30 amps continuous. It was just pretty steady decline down. We stayed at 12.77 volts to 12.7 volts and then to 12.3 volts, 3.6 really. Then at that point, she just really started tapering off on both batteries actually. So it did pretty good. I got to say I'm relatively pleased with these batteries. I've worked them pretty hard in the year that I've had them. They have been in continuous service. Okay, folks, so you can see in the graph that it wasn't really like an atypical discharge graph like we're used to seeing. In saying that, I was running the batteries continuous at 30 amp hours, which they should be able to handle pretty well. That's pretty easy that's a third of its power going at it. In saying that, I may have been able to get a few more amp hours out of it, saying running it conservatively at like 10 amp hours continuous for the test. And I may try that out when I get a little bit more time as winter time sets in. But for right now, I'm kind of happy with the results. A little bit more than 10%. I talked with EcoWorthy and they let me know that with their batteries, it's very typical, and probably with most lithium iron phosphate batteries, that your degradation over the first year is going to be right around 10%. These fell somewhere around 12 to 13% on average, I want to say. Maybe a little bit more, I don't know. But I'm actually pretty happy with it. I work these batteries every day. They ran my table saws and my grinders and my air compressor. They ran an air conditioner all summer. And running lights all night. They seem to be holding out really well as far as I'm concerned. I've got 4 of those batteries. We tested A and B on this time around, and then I've got 2 more that I purchased a year ago come this December, into December I believe it was. So we'll test those here in the next few months and see where they ride. And they're all working together as a unit. So basically, once I get them all tested and I figure out where everything's riding, I'm going to adjust the shunt when I hook it back up to, instead of 400 amp hours, I may be at 350 amp hours or something of that nature. But I got to say, I got nothing to compare them to. I've never tried any other batteries besides some AGM batteries that I was using. And I just wasn't pleased with the AGM. I think they're great in super cold weather. Where I'm living currently, it gets that cold below freezing, I don't know, maybe a week or 2 out of the whole year. Other than that, it's fairly temperate around here. So at any rate, I got nothing bad to say about the EcoWorthy batteries, and I hope they continue to give me a good life. They are going to be repurposed to a different project here in the future. I've got some other batteries I'm going to bring in and give them the big old 1-year test, so to speak. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, you guys. EcoWorthy's batteries are doing pretty good, and that's pretty awesome. I'll catch you later.